Love You podcast. I'm your host, Marc Katz, and we are continuing with this juicy conversation about whether a man should think his girlfriend is the most attractive woman he's ever seen. I say definitively he does not have to think that. It's nice. It would be nice. But that's usually not why men choose women. And I think that's one of the interesting things that I want to sort of discuss in the second half of this podcast. And first I want to take a step back and do the 40,000 foot overview. All of us in general tend to conflate beliefs with facts. They're not the same thing, right? I have two arms is not the same as I think blue is my favorite color, right? Those are two. One is a belief, one is a fact. When we turn our beliefs, right, into facts, it becomes really hard to reason, right? Because we think that just because we feel something, that A, it's true, instead of it just being a feeling, and B, that everybody else should feel the exact same way. And that's one of the things that hurts relationships. And again, that's not gender specific. Men and women are all subject to confusing their beliefs with facts. But your beliefs largely create your own reality. They are not reality in and of themselves. So whenever someone tells you that you have to respect their feelings just because they feel that way, well, some people are actually unreasonable with their feelings. Right? Again, no one wants to hear that they're being unreasonable with their feelings, but it's true. Otherwise, you can hijack any situation to get upset over something. Yeah, it helps if the part of the rest of the world sees things the way that you do. That's why, again, I'm going so deep down this road. This is a microcosm. This question, should my boyfriend think I'm the hottest person he's ever seen, is a microcosm of almost every relationship discussion, right? Tell me I'm hot is like code for make me feel safe and chosen. So if you've listened so far and you feel like, oh, this guy is really tone deaf to my needs, no, I'm a coach for women. I completely understand. You want to know that you are beautiful and safe and that he's not going anywhere. He doesn't desire anybody more than you. And a good boyfriend, a good husband, a good partner will make you feel desired, right? And he should. Right? The question is, does he need to lie to keep the peace? Right? Tell me I'm hot to make me feel chosen and safe. And not just hot, but the most. So there was a woman who was on my blog, and we were going back and forth on this. And it's always dangerous to engage with people, but it's illuminating. Right? You don't want it to get messy, but it's illuminating to see how other people think and how they express themselves. Hopefully you could have a difference of opinion without getting too emotional or attacking. So when I said, hey, it's really unrealistic, and 99% of guys are not going to think that the person that they're with is the most beautiful woman on the planet, might be the most beautiful woman he could get, but objectively, it would be hard to make that case. She even acknowledged the truth of this, right? It's not that I think I'm the most beautiful, but I want him to think I am. So we engaged in a dialogue, and she wrote back all the thoughts that were in her head if she had a man who didn't feel that way. And she could sort of sum it up in this one phrase. If he thinks an ex-girlfriend of his is hotter than I am, that means he values her more than he values me. This is her belief. This is not a fact. This is a belief. He values her more. Now that's ironic because he's not with the ex-girlfriend anymore. He's with you. So obviously he values you more. But the belief is that if he finds her more beautiful, he actually values her. So this is a perfect example of how beliefs are not the same as facts. So she has all these negative thoughts running in her head. So I wrote down some of the things that she wrote, right, the thoughts that were in her head with my responses. And I want to read it to you. These are real words that she thought. Am I the hottest woman you've ever seen? And now I'm playing your boyfriend or playing myself. That's not a very fair question. I married you. Of course I find you hot. So what if you married me? Does this mean you settled for me? No, I didn't settle for you. Did you marry me because I was the safe, stable, boring choice? No, I don't find you boring. I think you're cool and fun and smart and honest, and there's no one else I'd rather spend time with. Plus, we have a great sex life. Do you still fantasize about that hot chick you dated one time who dumped you? No, never think about it. Would you have married her if she hadn't dumped you? Hard to say, but probably not. In my experience, it's hard to find a level-headed, easygoing partner who doesn't try to change you where drama's at a minimum. I don't think for a second that I'd be happier with that hot chick who dumped me once. Are you saying that my thighs are fat and my face is a horse face? Wait, what? All I admitted is that there are other attractive women out there. Those are actual things that a woman wrote on my blog when expressing why it feels so bad if a man thinks other women are more attractive. And I didn't make those up. So I hope you could see the difference between her questions and my answers. Those things are her worst fears about what it means. Right? The problem is those fears are not true. They're not true at all. She thinks they are, but they're not actually speaking the man's mind. And what she forgets is that if she's the girlfriend, he has chosen you. He has, and he chooses you every single day, over and over and over. And so I think it's a real weird, slippery slope if you think that there's something wrong with a perfectly healthy relationship and in this circumstance. And here's the easiest way to see this. It's always by flipping things over. I do this a lot as a dating coach. I try to get you out of your shoes and put yourself in his shoes. Could you imagine having a boyfriend who said, honey, tell me I'm as hot as Channing Tatum. Tell me I'm as funny as Louis C.K. Tell me I'm as brilliant as Steve Jobs. Tell me I'm as well hung as John Holmes. Could you imagine? Could you imagine a guy ever saying any of those things, thinking any of those things, asking for that level of validation? What we know is that if you chose us, you chose us. That's where the value lies. Of course, there's going to be taller, funnier, richer, more intelligent, sexy men out there in the universe, probably even in your community. Right? You could probably go to any party, and my wife could go to any party and find a guy who's cuter than I am. And yet, so what? She's married to me. We got a ring. So what? And I think it's his confidence in himself, despite the fact that he knows that there are men who are more attractive empirically than him. That is what makes him attractive. The fact that he doesn't care that there is better men out there. You chose him anyway, and that's good enough. And that's part of why you value him. So, if you're looking for someone like that, I don't know. I think it's a really dangerous precedent. I think I've said that before. I want to close by giving you the answers that my alpha male friends had. Right? These are guys married, tall, good-looking, successful, experienced with women, married well, really cool, really beautiful wives. And I asked them these 3 questions, and I just transcribed what they wrote. I didn't do any editing on this one. I want to tell you what these guys said. Is your wife, number 1, is your wife the most beautiful woman you've ever seen? Both said no. Just one word answer, no. Number 2, if your wife is not the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, does she know it? How does she deal with the acknowledgement that you find other women more attractive? One said, I do not think she feels the need to be the most beautiful or most attractive woman I've ever seen or dated. She knows that I love her and I'm extremely attracted to her. I think that makes her secure and happy. Other guy says, I don't think it's a conversation we've ever had. I think she gets it, although if she thought she wasn't the most beautiful woman I'd ever dated, she'd probably flip. If I said she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, she would tell me I'm a liar. And number 3, why did you choose your wife if you didn't think she's the most beautiful woman in the world? One says, I don't want the most beautiful woman in the world. I chose my wife because I believe that we were compatible, shared core values, had lots of fun together, fell in love, and she's beautiful and attractive. Other guy says, our personalities clicked alongside of her looks. They made her the most all-around, most beautiful person, not just looks. Plus, she doesn't allow me to walk all over her like I have with others. She keeps me in check, and I respect her more than any other woman I've ever met. So this brings us to the irony here. Right? The irony is that women want to be judged for more than their looks, obviously, and you should be judged for more than your looks, right? Women are always complaining that men are shallow and they're looksist and they like young and they like big boobs, and right? Women are always complaining that men are too shallow, and you want to be judged for more than your looks. So here's a whole bunch of guys saying, we're judging you for more than your looks, right? Right? I value you for the whole package. Looks is just one piece of it, and yet it's still not enough for some people. So for me, I take pride and peace and joy in knowing that your guy chooses you even though he knows that there are hotter women anywhere he looks, on the streets, on the internet, whatever. He still chooses you above all others. And that, to me, is a sign of a strong relationship, not the sign of a weak one. Thank you for letting me rant. That was a lot of fun. This is the first episode of the Love You podcast. My name is Marc Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women. The next episode we're going to help you stop beating yourself up about men. And I'm going to remind you that you can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. Very useful concept. We're going to get deep into that next week. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And most importantly, go to www.evanmarckatz.com. Get some free advice in your inbox every single week on dating, relationships, and men. Thanks for your time. I'll talk to you soon.